True.
Oh, it's so good. Real quick, hey, why did you have a podcast? How long have you had it?
I'm on episode 6. I need to drop episode 6 this week.
Mm-hmm. And how many?
For 6 weeks, one a week.
6 weeks. Nice. Yeah. And who are you pulling in? I've seen the names, but I haven't had a chance to check it out.
People from my world in the investment world. So I've got the first one was a guy named Mark Comer. Mm-hmm. Mark sold a software company when he was 31 for $500 million, and he's just a super good guy, entrepreneur, probably owned 40 or 50 different businesses.
Yeah.
He right now is the #1 distributor in the world for Synergy Worldwide. That's a multi-level marketing deal. So after all of his entrepreneurship, after all of his building businesses and selling them for many millions, mm-hmm. he decided that he would just be an MLMer.
And it's working out.
Oh, he loves it. Yeah, he makes millions a year, and he loves the fact that he gets to help people. All of his businesses have been about helping people do business, right. And he loves the fact that there's an industry out there that makes it very easy to do business. Not necessarily very easy to be successful, but no business is easy to be successful with.
Right.
So it just makes it easier to do business. So you can be successful at just about anything if you want to put in the work.
Right. That's the hard part, putting in work, right?
It's true.
Yes.
True.
Well, normally what happens is that I start talking and then eventually we start a conversation. So when I go back and edit, I just pick up where the conversation picks up. You okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so real quick question. Who else have you interviewed? Because this is very interesting.
So then I interviewed a guy named Tyler Devereaux, and Tyler actually used to be a sales support for me. So you've been to one of my conferences where I speak and teach about real estate investing. Tyler Devereaux is a young man from Spanish Fork who now lives in Maui. He came on board with us as a support sales staff and was just a really good salesperson. People loved him, and he was very good at creating that relationship. And one of the things that I think is like paramount for peak human performance is salesmanship. We're all salespeople. We're either good at it or we're not. If you're not good at it, then you're not paid well. If you are good at it, you're paid very well. So if you're a doctor with bad bedside manner, you're bad at sales, and you're not going to professionally be as well compensated as somebody who has the sales skills to be able to communicate their point of view. You're also not going to get good outcomes because your patients, you don't sell them on the fact that they need to take that medication. You tell them, but you don't sell them, and telling is not selling. Yeah. So sales, every one of us are in sales, right? I've married 32 years. That's a sales relationship. There's conflict. We have to figure out how do we find a win-win. Right. And all sales is today is figuring out win-win relationships and then putting them together in a way where both parties are happy with the outcome. And so I have studied sales my whole life. I started as a life insurance salesman when I was going to college, and that has really shaped my life. So when people say, what do you do for a living? I'm a real estate developer. I'm a real estate investor. I'm a platform speaker, a keynote speaker. The reality is I'm a salesman, and I'm very proud of that profession because the greatest sell I was ever involved with was missionary work. And some people would say, that's blasphemy calling that a sell. No, it's me communicating a belief to somebody and hopefully finding a win-win relationship where we can say, hey, I value your opinion, Jason, and I want to move towards that same thing. And there's no financial transaction there, but sales aren't necessarily a financial transaction. I mean, that sale with a grandkid where they come and just wrap their arms around you and kiss you at the end of the night because they love you. That's a sale closed. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And there are just some people who don't study it and they're not good at it. Well, when Tyler came on, I'm like, dang, this kid could be good if he put the time in.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how good he'd become. We separated. I left that company that I was doing some training for, and I was training for the U.S. Tax Lien Association, where I met you and your mother.
Right.
And I was doing an event there, and I love to train for that company because one, I believe that the cheapest way to acquire real estate is from a municipality. I don't believe that, I know it. So I like to help people get their assets as cheap as possible, so their margins
Right.
are as best as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other reason that I like specifically the U.S. Tax Lien Association is their clients are generally very happy.
Yeah.
And that's rare in the training world, in the platform seminar world, to have clients who are happy. There are two major companies in Utah were just recently shut down.
Uh-huh.
Response or Nudge was shut down, and Zurich's was shut down. And
Okay.
they ran the conferences for, flipping Boston, flipping Vegas, flipping,
Okay.
those
Mm-hmm.
kind of shows. And it's not that they did a bad job, it's just that eventually their clients weren't happy. And if you have
Why?
enough, if people believe they're going to make X amount and they don't, they're going to become unhappy.
Right.
So eventually the number of unhappy people caused the attorney general to say, you guys can't be in business anymore because you have too many unhappy clients. Sean and Tony with the U.S. Tax Lien Association do a really, really good job of helping their students actually make money. And their concern, the first question as a trainer for them when I'm out on the road for them is, tell me, what have you purchased? That was my question to you and your mom was,
Right.
what's she done? What's going on?
Yeah.
Because I actually want my students to make money, right?
Right.
Well, anyway, I'm doing a conference and I love doing that conference. And I see all these people walking into a hallway and they're happy and they're not coming to my room. They're going to another real estate conference across the hall. And I'm like, okay, this
Something's
many
up.
happy people, something's up because they're not coming to me.
Right.
I mean, my people were happy too, but I went and peeked around the corner. I'm like, who is this? Who's doing a good job that their people are this happy?
Mm-hmm.
And there's Tyler Devereaux standing up on stage,
Yeah.
Now, he wasn't on stage yet, but, and bottom line is Tyler has grown from, just learning how to sell to mastering multifamily investing. He's got in fact, I'll plug him right now. MF Capital, might be MF Capital Partners, but I think it's MF Capital.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Devereaux, you can look him up, and they help people get into owning multifamily apartment complexes and so forth on syndicated deals. Do a good job. So he was my second. Let's see, my third was a kid named Brian Fasheen. I pulled that one down just because there's a little bit of conflict, and so it's not up. Me and Brian are fine, but there was some conflict. So anyway, we pulled that one down.
Uh-huh.
And then the fourth, I think, was Patrick Henry Hansen.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've never, he's from Utah or used to live in Utah. He's in California now. But Patrick owns Spartan Sales Academy. So again, sales training, the importance of sales in life. He wrote a really, 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 really good book that everybody should read. DNA Selling Method. DNA Selling Method. It's on Amazon. It's fantastic. And Patrick is a master of history. With a name like Patrick Henry, his parents were history buffs when they named him. And he grew up just being a student of history. And he looks backwards to look forward and says, what battles in history can I glean lessons from that can help me confront the battle I'm in today?
Right.
And it's a unique perspective, and I like history, so I've always enjoyed it. But it's a system for selling that is consultative. It's communication, just like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a nutshell. It's such a beautiful way to sell because it isn't what most people would think of selling. And it would be first to discover. So Isabella, help me understand what you're wanting to do with real estate. Do you see that question?
Yes. Yeah.
It's just help me understand. Help me understand what you're wanting to achieve with real estate. It's very open-ended and that's a discovery question. And there's several. I mean, you just discover what people want. And if you don't want a pencil, you want a pen, and if I try to sell you a pencil, you're never going to like me and we're never going to get along because I don't have a solution for you. When's the right time to figure that out?
Up front, where you can still change. Yeah.
Exactly. So maybe when we're doing discovery, it'd be a good time to say, hey, fantastic. You know, I don't have a solution for you, but I have a friend that does.
Right.
And if you know what I mean, then just
Right.
be cool with people. Just send them someplace that'll take care of them with what they need, instead of trying to force a round peg in a square hole, and ultimately ending up with people who don't like you. So Patrick's book, this is Discovery Need Analysis. If you were to tell me, well, I want to invest in real estate because, you know, it's something I've always wanted. Well, help me understand why you feel like you need to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference, right? We're just going up one level deeper.
Yeah.
And well, I need to because my 401k is shaky and I don't have enough assets to retire. And I really feel like I need to have 10 rental properties paid off so that when I'm retired, I can have a monthly income of $15,000 a month. Okay, cool.
Right.
Now I understand what you feel like you need. Then I want to help ascertain pain. And this is one that's hard for people. But if you understand sales, it's not a trick. It's so that I can measure whether or not I can help you. And it's simply this. If you told me you needed retirement income of $15,000 a month,
mm-hmm.
and you wanted 10 paid off houses rented to do it, what I would then say is, okay, so Pela, help me understand, if you don't get those 10 houses, where would you be? What's the consequence of that not happening?
Right.
Which is a painful question to ask, right?
Yes.
Because we want to see ourselves achieving our dream, and a lot of people are dreamers and not doers.
Yes.
Because they're never getting to a pain point.
Pain points move us. They really do. Yeah.
So you look at our nation right now, right?
Yes. They're feeling the pain point in a big way.
In a big way, in a big way. And pain points move us. So as a motivator, as a salesperson, if I don't get somebody to recognize their pain and be honest with themselves, I'm doing them a disservice, right?
Right.
So I'm going to ascertain some pain and figure out if there is a pain. And look, if the person said to me, Pela, well, if I don't get 10 houses paid off, if I don't have $15,000 a month, I don't really care because my dad was a billionaire and I'm on a trust fund.
Right.
And I'll be fine. Okay, then I don't have a solution for you, and you don't have any pain, and you don't need to change. God bless you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Patrick helped me understand that you don't have to be aggressive to be an influential salesperson, with his book, DNA Sales Method.
How long ago was this book written?
Oh gosh, I trained with him starting probably 2004, maybe. So it's old.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I sat through hours and hours and hours of your presentation, hours and days. Yeah. Yes, actually.
3 days, 24 hours to be. It was like pulling teeth, wasn't it? It's horrible.
No, I was going to mention there was never a point where anybody seemed to feel pushed or pressured. And I was like, if he just wrote this book, you didn't learn it from him. You already knew it, but I could see.
No, I've trained with Patrick. I believe in mentorships, right? I believe that if you want to get better at something, find somebody who's where you want to be.
Right.
I liken it to pushing a wet noodle. I want to get there, and I'm here.
Yeah.
And I've got a wet noodle in between. If I try to push the noodle to get where I'm wanting to go, it squiggles, right?
Right.
I just want to find somebody who's always right there at the top where I want to be, and have them pull the noodle.
Yeah.
And get me there. It's just faster, cheaper, more effective. Here's another way that we frame it. In fact, Tyler Devereaux said it on the podcast I did with him. He said a lot of people look at where they came from to make decisions about where they're going. And they're completely irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
I was going to say, that doesn't seem like the best plan all of the time. Yeah.
But you know people like that, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
People who still today blame their financial condition on 2008.
Right.
People who today blame their financial condition on where they were born, the side of the tracks, the city, the neighborhood, the culture, the race, the whatever excuse, the gender, the age.
Yeah.
Right? If we're looking backwards to frame our future, I can't do that. I'm 55. I don't learn new programming tricks. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Girl, text message, what?
My thumbs don't work. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So if I'm making decisions in my future just based on what I've done in the past, that's a recipe for failure. The other thing people do is they'll frame their decisions based on their present. And we see this is really very common. This is most people live in that world. They make their decisions based on what they're feeling and what they're going through today. And what we find is they're chasing their tail or constantly putting out fires and not really moving. So Tyler said, you know, I really don't care what happened yesterday, because yesterday is yesterday. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Don't care what today is, because today is
quickly fleeting. Yeah.
That, and it's actually the quality of the day is a matter of your decision.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that God's given us that he's promised he will not ever take from us is our ability to choose.
Right.
So I am sorry, nobody makes you happy. Nobody makes you sad.
You choose. Yeah.
Read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. There are a lot of people who are angry now or sad now, but that's their choice. I'm not saying it's wrong to be angry or sad.
Yeah.
But understand it's your choice. And if you want to choose that for a while, okay. But now what? Right? Now what? And we got to get to a point where we own where we are, and we can't abdicate that ownership to somebody else. Otherwise we can't fix it. So
you have no control. Yeah.
Correct. If you made me sad, then only you can fix it.
Right.
And unfortunately, we're hearing a lot of that right now, where what I want to spend more time talking about is the positive people like you who are talking about, hey, here we are, now what? And isn't it exciting that we can actually do something to make the world better?
Yeah.
I think it's an awesome thing.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of good people out there that are talking hopefully with hope.
Yes.
And that's the stuff I like to elevate. Anyway, Tyler is just fantastic. So that podcast went real well. Patrick Henry Hansen's went real well. Victor Antonio. So Victor Antonio had a TV show, Life or Debt, on Spike TV.
Okay.
And he is probably the coolest public speaker I've ever got to hang out with. I like to tell people I'm the best public speaker you never heard of.
We could change that, right?
Victor Antonio is the best public speaker I've ever heard. He is captivating from word one. He is a Puerto Rican kid from South Chicago who just has that way about him that you get from the streets, man. And he climbed his way from South Chicago through a phenomenal education into top tier sales in software, into, you know, being over sales for all of South America, using his Spanish skills for a large company. And he just then parlayed all of that knowledge into teaching people how to sell. And so he's got the, if you just Google Victor Antonio, you'll find all of his stuff online. He's got like 1,000 free training videos. So, I mean, you could, he's awesome. Yeah. Victor Antonio. He's fantastic. He's fun. He's energetic, and he knows his stuff, especially with tech sales. So anybody in the tech sales industry, Victor Antonio is awesome. I actually hired him to train for a company I was training 4 years ago. And he likes to tell the story. Being a salesman, I was persistent in selling. I called him up out of the blue because I needed a Spanish speaking person that could speak to do this spot. And I told him, you know, here's what I do, and here's what it would pay. And it was a lot of money. And he didn't know me from anybody, you know. He never heard me before. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. He was very nice, but he never called me back. I called him a week. I called him a week later, and I'm like, I need to know, are you in? Are you out? Yeah. You want to make this kind of money? I'm not making it up. Tell you what, look how I closed him. I'm like, let me put you on a plane. I'll pay for you to fly to Florida. I'll meet you there, and I'll let you watch somebody who's doing it, and I'll show you the money they're making. So he's like, oh, if he's going to pay, let's see. So I met him in a random hotel in Orlando, Florida. We walked into a room. He sat down at the back with me. I explained what was happening and what was going on. At the end of the day, he said, how much money did this guy just make? I wrote it down on a piece of paper, turned it around, and I said, you want to go see the database that proves it? And he's like, no, where do I sign? So
You're all good because
I
this has been exhausting. Yeah, it's a great close.
but he went from disbelieving to very much believing, did very, very well. And we just remained really good friends. And
Yeah.
then he was asked by Spike TV to do the Life or Debt TV show, which I think ran 11 episodes or something. And just helps people understand the decisions they're making in regards to personal debt, which
Right.
is destroying a lot of lives. Alan Aquina is another one that I was able to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Aquina owns 101 Financial, and everybody should check them out. They're fantastic. If you just need help with basic financial management, your personal budgeting,
Yeah.
or even basics of investing and creating a IRA accounts and SEP IRA accounts and putting money away on a consistent basis so that it eventually grows. Alan Aquina does a phenomenal job. And he's got a great little company. It's not a great little company. It's one of the fastest growing companies around, but 101 Financial, fantastic guy, local Hawaiian guy. Funny story on him was his dad, Hiram Aquina, is a basketball coach, and I was a student at BYU Hawaii.
Yeah, I was gonna say all of these names. They sound very familiar.
Yeah, so Hiram, Alan's dad, taught a PE class I was in, and Hiram was like 17. He was still going to Kahuku or wherever he's going to high school. Can't remember. I think he went to Kahuku. Anyway, he comes down to the gym, and I decided to end up playing a 2-on-2 game against Hiram, who's like 5'4", 5'6". He's really short, and Alan, who's 5'10". But at the time, he's a senior in high school, and I'm thinking we're gonna wipe the floor with these short guys. I'm 6'2", and the guy I was playing with was taller than me. These two short little Hawaiian guys just ate our lunch, and I got humbled, and I just remember watching that, going, I'm never gonna forget the Aquina name. And then I have an opportunity to interview him on my podcast later. It was him.
Nice.
So
nice.
yeah,
Like I
that
let you win. It was one of those. I was feeling generous.
Oh no. I just got
You got schooled.
I got schooled, and it really is kind of interesting because life lesson, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just fundamentals. I was beaten by better fundamentals.
Oh.
Life isn't complicated.
No.
It really isn't, unless you make it complicated.
Yeah.
Winning is just 99% of winning is showing up. The other 1% is doing the right thing. And these guys, they were where they should be. Anytime the ball was, they were where they needed to be all the time. Defensively, offensively, they had it beat just on the fundamentals. Their pivots, the reverse pivots, they're just better than me. So I was humbled. Short little Hawaiian guys. Little Menahunis, man. Just tiny little.
Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, it wasn't me. I didn't call you Menahuni.
No, they're awesome. But anyway, I'd give that Alan Aquina for sure. 101 Financial, big shout out. I've got one dropping here shortly with Bud Lethbridge, who owns Corp Advantage. And what he does is he puts together companies for people. So if you need LLCs, you go to him. If you need family limited partnerships, family trusts, all the entities, but he structures them in a way where they really protect your assets nicely. Nice. And obviously the tax benefits of that. He's a great guy. Just got to interview, it hasn't dropped yet, but Vaisika Hema. And Elder Vaisika Hema is an area presidency for the Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints back east. He is also played football at Mesa High. I'm from Tempe, Arizona, so across the way. Of course. He wanted to go to Arizona State, which was my preference as a school, but ended up at BYU, where I ended up. And he won a national championship with BYU, then played for the Cardinals, the Green Bay Packers, and ended up in Philadelphia Eagles, where he then started afterwards newscasting. And he's the morning news anchor. I think he's won a couple of Emmys for his reporting, and he's just the sweetest man. Born in Tonga, raised in Arizona, lives in South Jersey, and just as a gem of a guy.
Further from the island,
Yeah, and we talked about nothing about sales, but what I spoke about with him was important, and it was really the name Vaisika Hema is synonymous with greatness. Everything he does really, really well, and two All-Pro on the returning spot. He made the All-Pro team 2 years.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a big deal when you're the best kickoff returner in the NFL for a couple of years in a row. You're
Right.
pretty amazing. Anyway, Vicecam was synonymous with greatness. So I asked him, I said, what is it?
Mhm.
And he really, it settled down on something for him. It was, I can't remember the word in Tongan, maybe, I don't know if you would know it, but responsibility.
I don't even
You
know
don't
it
know
in
that?
Samoan, so no.
No, I don't know. It sounded familiar to me, but I don't know it. Anyway, the word responsibility is a big deal to Tongan people,
Mhm.
and it was just his responsibility to do his very best, to represent himself, his island,
His
his
family,
team, his
his team.
family. There's a
Yeah.
lot more on it than just him being his best self. It was really cool to hear him talk about how important fulfilling our duty and responsibility is, and that tied into what I talk about at Real Good Deeds. So what
Yeah.
I do, Real Good Deeds is a concept and a company. So as a company,
Mhm.
I train people to buy real estate as an investment and do social good with it. So I'm there's lots of ways to make money, and making money isn't that hard once you figure out kind of how to do it.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of opportunities to change people's lives for the better while making money. Real estate is one of those things. Um, I just posted this link out on social media, or a video. Oprah, do you remember when she had a couple of nights on TV when the riots were going on?
Mhm.
Um, she played a video of an impassioned woman who's just, I mean, you could feel every fiber of her being was intent on communicating her frustration. And she said something that really pierced me, because I've been feeling it for 5 years now, almost 6 years.
Mhm.
She said when people asked her why they loot in her own neighborhood, she just, with tears in her eyes, she said, it's not our
Our
neighborhood.
neighborhood. We don't
We
own
don't
this.
own it.
I know
We don't
exactly
own
who you're talking about.
anything. Do you remember that?
Yes. The Monopoly
Goosebumps.
game.
Goosebumps hit me,
Yes.
and I realized, Jason Porter, you're on the right track. My calling, and if you understand Latin,
Mhm.
vocation,
Yeah.
vocation comes from calling. That spiritual feeling that we have, it says, this is what I need to do for a living, for my
Yes.
everyday.
Yeah.
My living is to help underprivileged people, and they're of all colors and cultures,
Mhm.
become homeowners. You cannot live the American dream if you don't own it.
Yeah.
And decisions would be very different if they did own it.
Yeah.
So, Pela, let me ask you, what was the first bicycle you remember owning? Do you remember its color? Do you remember anything about your first bicycle?
Yeah. I do. We had just moved. My parents just finished college in Hawaii, and they moved us to Salt Lake. Then they moved us to Denver, and my dad brought home all of these, like 4 different bikes from the Goodwill, something like that. And he happens to know how to do body work on cars, and he had just painted this Cadillac midnight blue, and had worked on it for a long time, getting everything, like doing the body work, making it nice. And
Mm-hmm.
then he painted it, and he had leftover paint. So he went and got these 4 bikes for his 4 children, and everybody got a
Wow.
midnight blue bike. I remember it just because he went through all that trouble to
Yeah.
paint it. Yeah.
And how did you take care of it? How did you feel about it? I mean, you're a kid,
Oh,
so not perfectly, but
yeah, but it was my bike. It was my
it was
bike.
your bike,
It was
right?
and I did not appreciate when anybody else rode it. Yeah, it was my
No.
bike.
And did you ever have a bike stolen?
Because I grew up in Latvia. Yes. Let me just say it like that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, hold on now. That's not stealing.
That's
Okay, my
borrowing
slippers, your slip.
indefinitely.
True. I'll get my slippers back when I go to your house. I just put them back on. No big deal, sister.
That is so true. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a white dude with size 13. Every time I got new slippers, I'm like, I ain't leaving them at the front door because I know they're going home with somebody else. And it's not,
Yeah.
it's anyway, that's just funny. That's not you.
No, yeah,
So,
that's Hawaiian culture.
well, it's Samoa, it's everything.
The
And
poly world
yeah,
is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I struggled with that, by the way, as a white dude in that culture at the beginning. I struggled with it. And then I realized, you know what? There's no malice, because if they had, they'd give.
Yeah.
I have, so I should give. And it really frames real good deeds. Those of us who've been blessed, I'm going to call it privilege,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to remove the word white, because that charges people.
Yeah.
The word white, the word black, the word brown, it changes the discussion. So let's pull it out. I enjoy privilege, right? I live in a nice place. I have a nice home. I have a comfortable income. I have privilege that other people don't have. Can we agree with that? I have things other people don't have.
Yeah.
Some of that I worked for. Some of that I received as a benefit of being born and growing to 6'2" with blue eyes.
Yeah.
Now, if I were to go, what do you remember going to church in Laie? Do you remember like a congregation that you went to the name of it?
I don't remember which ward it
So
was.
one ward that I'm familiar with is Laie First Ward, right?
Yeah.
Laie First Ward. I don't live there. I've never lived in Laie other than as a student at TVA.
Yeah.
But if I were to go visit Laie First Ward, and shout out to the IUs and everybody in Laie First Ward, right? Dub Street. That's it there. Anyway, if I were to go to Laie First Ward, I would not have the privilege that they have, because I don't know anybody. I don't know the bishop. I don't know what time the ward starts. I don't know where the Sunday school classes are. I don't enjoy what they enjoy.
Right. You're coming into a system unknown. Yeah.
Every one of us enjoys privilege in a given situation. Right. I'm privileged economically. Other people are privileged in other ways. But when we find ourselves in a privileged situation, what is incumbent upon us? To help those that don't have the privilege.
Yeah.
Right. So the beautiful thing about Laie First Ward is when I go there, and I go there every time we go, oh man, people welcome, and I get hugs and kisses and full of that aloha spirit. And come over here, come, sit down over here. Hey, I got a place for you. There's that thing that they watch out for and take care of visitors, because there's so many visitors that visit Hawaii, and they do a phenomenal job of sharing their privilege of knowing the inside scoops to the North Shore of Oahu.
Yes.
With somebody who's from outside.
Yeah.
So I've never felt awkward or weird for very long.
Right.
Because I was embraced by people with privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a weird obligatory way, but in just a loving, comfortable way. Mm-hmm. And I think we all need to look at that as investors, those of us who want to invest in real estate. If you tell me you want to invest in real estate, I know something about you. You have enough money to do it.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of people who don't have the money to invest in real estate. So my next question is, with that privilege, what are you going to do with it?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
What is the answer? What is the answer?
Well, let me give you
an
idea. Bought a house for $6,000, Indiana.
Yeah.
Now I could have fixed it up for $45,000 and sold it for $85,000 after commissions and closing costs. I would have made only about $15,000, if that. Right? If everything went well, I'd have made $15,000. And $15,000 is a lot of money to some people, and it's a lot of money to me. Yeah. I like it. I mean, I'd love to have $15,000 just fall in my lap. And for the amount of work, it's not a bad day. It's not a bad time. But check out what we did with it. We sold it to somebody who didn't own a home, could not qualify for financing, had recently come out of jail, on disability, for $20,000, and I didn't fix it. In fact, I've never been in the doors of this house. I sold it to him as is and allow him to move in and fix it up. and he can keep all the equity. So while he lives in it, he can put his own time and money into it. And if I didn't have to pay somebody to fix it, see, I'd pay $45,000 to pay somebody to fix it.
Right.
But if I were living in it, the way when Mona and I started, Mona's my wife, for those of you who don't know her. When Mona and I started investing in real estate, we'd live in the houses while we fixed them because we were too broke to do it any other way. So I gave this guy an opportunity to move into the house, to fix it himself, and then to sell it. And do we need to stop for a little bit? I see you looking to the side.
Yes, just a second.
No problem.
Sorry about that.
No worries at all.
Okay. So yeah, anyway, so you guys would live in the house?
So we would live in the house and we would do the rehab while we lived in it because that's all we could afford to do. So I gave this guy the same opportunity, if you think about it, right?
Right.
I sold him what could be an $85,000 asset for $20,000. He can live in it and fix it, and it's going to cost him to fix it to the same level I would fix it. It would cost him $20,000.
Right.
But he can live in it while he's doing it. He could take 10 or 15 years to do it. He can maybe be able to do it cheaper because he can find, he'd have time.
Right.
He's not in a rush to get it flipped.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing the flip, you're carrying all the costs. You want your money back, right?
Yeah.
And he could sell that house and put $40,000 in his pocket.
Yeah.
So it's a real win for him. But I just made 230% on my money.
Right.
And I didn't have to fix up the house. That's a real good deed.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I found a way to help a person who needs to have ownership, and I found a way to make more money.
Right.
So it's
and I think we've got a deed is of course the double meaning there, right?
Correct. So I always, any business I've ever started, I try to figure out fun ways to play with words, and that's just this stupid thing I do. But real good deeds, I envision, Isabella, one day having enough people sharing the good deeds that they see in the world, that there's more good being noticed than bad. I would love one day to have a real good deeds news channel that runs 24 hours a day opposite Fox and CNN. And all it does is
share the good news
of amazing things. And the good news, thank you. The good news to me is the good news of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And the word gospel literally means good news. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of meaning behind that to me. But if you think about that, just the good news, if we would live, all of us as humans, with a love of our brother as if ourselves,
yeah,
we would not be experiencing what we're experiencing as a nation right now.
Yeah,
if everybody would just live two laws, right? Love God,
yeah,
and love each other. And we just have a problem with those. And he broke it down, man. He took it from complicated 10, and then it went from 10 to thousands, right? Don't walk this far, wash your vegetables there, don't wash them here.
Right.
All very complicated law.
Yeah.
So, hey, let's just strip all that away and see if you can just handle these two.
No, but we'll try. Yeah. I'm like, thank you. No, not yet.
Yeah, but that's what I want. I want to get to a point where we help each other. And it doesn't mean I don't want people to make money. Heck, I want to make money. I make better money when I do good.
Yeah.
Interestingly.
Give me a little bit of your origin story, because that was one of those things when I first heard you speak. That was something that really like got to me, because it's like you understood things from a different perspective than just always having things together.
Well, yeah, we didn't come from a place of wealth. I was born and raised in Tempe, Arizona. My dad was a successful attorney, but he was a spendthrift. He would spend money as fast as he could make it. Faster, actually. I found out later that he borrowed a lot of money from people, and then in anticipation of fees that he would collect, and then the fees he would collect would go pay off his debt, and he'd borrow again. And so he didn't manage money very well. I never saw him invest in anything but one investment property that he received, actually, and I think it was in trade for some work that he had done as a lawyer. Mm-hmm. But it was sold as soon as he needed money. And I never saw any investing from him. He had no retirement plan. He had nothing. He made millions and millions in his life, but gave it all away. Very, very, very philanthropic, which is a wonderful example.
Yeah.
He had some issues, in regards to the marriage he had with my mom. And I remember one time asking him, he was wronged by some business partners of his to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And both of these people professed to be of the same faith as us. And my dad wouldn't sue them. In fact, one was in a leadership position within the church. And he not only broke the law, he broke the law against his business partner and friend. And anyway, I'm like, Dad, sue the dude.
Yeah, you're a lawyer.
Who
You
cares?
can do that.
Just
Yeah.
go with it. Justice, mercy can't rob justice.
Yes.
Right? It's got to be justice. Go for it. And he said something I'll never forget, and it shaped my life. He said, son, with the judgment that you judge, so shall you be judged.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, and I need mercy.
Oh, it's true. We all do. Yeah.
Well, in his case, he felt he needed it more because he had made some decisions that were hurtful to my mother. And I never questioned him again. I realized it really did not matter to my dad what he ended. The scorecard was not what he left the world with.
Yeah.
It was how he left the world.
Right.
So I'll always thank him for that. But I had problems with drugs as a kid. Mom and dad split. I was 12. There were some issues around that. They got back together later, but I'm not going to blame it on their being split. Bottom line is I liked getting high a lot. Mm-hmm. And I did a lot of it. And I got a hold of some laced weed. I didn't know it was laced with PCP, but it was. And I went on a trip that was scary. And it's the first time I was ever afraid. Mm-hmm. I wasn't afraid during the trip. In fact, I don't even remember it. So there's about a 24-hour period, not quite 24 hours in my life. I have no recollection of anything.
Yeah.
But my friends were telling me what I was doing, and I very easily could have killed them or killed me or both. And it scared me. So I went to my parents, who I had hid my drug problems from, and I just laid it out to them. Mm. And in fact, I had to get wasted to be able to have the courage to tell them. And I said, I need help. I've got a problem. And the law of attraction is very real, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, a law of attraction. I put this into the universe, right? And I've studied Jack Canfield from The Secret. Actually done training with Jack for a couple of years. And
he's also Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
But the law of attraction is a real thing. And as an LDS, as a Christian person, a lot of Christians don't like the law of attraction because they think it's giving us
it's witchcraft.
Power. Well, if we can think it and manifest it in our lives, they think we're doing away with God. I don't think that way at all, because the good book says, as you think, you become. Mm-hmm. And it says to ask and you shall receive. So all the law of attraction is a process of asking. And if you ask, you get it. And that's true whether you're asking God or asking the universe. What we think about, we get, because thoughts are things, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll just go gospel stuff. You can edit whatever you want if you're uncomfortable. This is what I truly believe. God loves his children, all of them, every single one of them.
Yeah.
And he's going to give you what you want because he's a good dad. In fact, he's a perfect dad.
Yeah.
Perfect dads give us what we want. They also give us what we need. Right?
And that's the part that's not that fun.
Correct. But if you want it, he's going to give it to you. If you want it bad enough. Mm-hmm. And just whatever we think about, we get. You wanted a bike, you got a midnight blue bike. Yeah. You know what we want in life, we get. Mm-hmm. And there's some things where it's out of our control. Death is one of those things, right? We may want somebody to live and they end up dying. But the fact of the matter is a general rule, whatever we think about, we do get. It magnifies. So I put into the world that I wanted to become sober, and God just blessed me. The universe just dropped a little nugget right in my lap. And my best friend from my freshman year in high school, and I had only dabbled in drinking, showed up. See, his dad was called to be a mission president in southern Brazil, a place called Curitiba. So he was a mission president over about 200 missionaries in southern Brazil for the church. Mm-hmm. And this kid just showed up out of the blue. He gave me a call and said, hey, can I stay at your house? I'm coming up for a couple of weeks. I had just tried to get sober. Here comes a good friend who's a good influence. He didn't party, and I could hang out with him, so it was kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
And he's asking me how things are going. And I'm like, dude, here's the reality, man. I got some issues.
Yeah.
Here's what I've been doing. And he's like, why don't you get away from all this? Come down to Brazil with me and graduate from high school in Brazil with me. And I'm like, I don't think my dad would ever go for that.
You're
Not knowing
asking
at
me
the
to make the decision to leave my family and go live with yours. I'm a kid.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in because I wanted to get away from my friends. I've always been interested in other people and cultures. Started traveling to Mexico when I was like 3 on an annual basis. My dad had a grape farm down there. So other people and cultures didn't scare me. I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly white, but we had a good mix. I would say probably 10% African American in our block and 20 to 30% Mexican descent, and the rest white. So I mean, my buddies were of all kinds of colors. It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to Brazil because I'm thinking, hey, I can get away from these friends. I won't get high. I can start fresh. Nobody will know I was a stoner. I can decide what I want to be.
Yeah.
But would my dad let me? So I went and asked my dad, and he said that fast, yeah, I'll make it happen. Put me on a plane the next day to go get a visa in Los Angeles. I'd never taken a taxi by myself. And the next thing I know, I'm going to the consulate, the Brazilian consulate in Los Angeles by taxi. And we were on a plane going back to Brazil by the end of the week. And I had one relapse with alcohol down there, and I've been sober ever since. And that changed my life. I fell in love with Brazil, fell in love with the culture, the differences. I had a transformative experience. When I drank, I didn't just drink, I got wasted, blackout drunk. And when the Mormon mission president found out about it, I thought he was going to send me home. I thought he was going to say, you can't be here and do that.
Yeah.
And then I learned how God really is with his kids, because this guy was so close to God at the time. He said, I've worked really hard to create an impression about what we believe. And people know that you belong to the same church, even though you don't believe it. But in one night, you kind of destroyed what I've been working on for 2 years.
Oh.
And I'm going to ask you, can you never do that again? And I was so amazed that he didn't hit me, or that he didn't yell or scream. He just said, can you never do that again? And I said, yeah, I won't do that again. I am so sorry. That's the last he ever said of it. He was done. Okay. Don't do it again. That's it. And that's how I learned God, he forgives freely. When we ask, we get. He loves us, right? So I fell in love with Brazil. Anyway, here's where that story went. I come home just a few days later. It was Christmas break. And in Christmas in Brazil, you get a month and a half off school. So I was just going to surf for a month and a half, right? I was going to surf. I was going to have so much fun during Christmas break. I come home for Christmas break from school and my bags are packed. And I think, oh no, the president is sending me home. And I just realized that I'm running out of battery. So I'm going to keep going with the story. Yeah. He said, no, you're not going home. You're going on a mission. And I said, well, what do you mean I'm going on a mission? And he said, well, you're going on a mission. Your bags are packed. There's the taxi. You're leaving to a place called Ponta Grossa in Brazil. And you can't come back until you baptize somebody. And I said,
does that mean surfing, or do you really mean it?
No, he meant it. And I took off to Brazil, or I took off to Ponta Grossa in a bus. I'd never taken a bus by myself. I didn't speak Portuguese. And I go off to Brazil, or to Ponta Grossa. I'm sorry, I'm going to get all this done here, and your audience is going to go, man, this guy doesn't even care. No shame. That's the way we are. So anyway, he sent me off to Ponta Grossa. I had a companion that didn't speak a lick of English.
Nice.
And he walked about 100 miles a day. And I got bloody blisters in my feet. I didn't know what we were doing. I didn't have a testimony of Jesus Christ, let alone this church or anything. And I'm just miserable as a kid. But something was happening to me inside because I was working with these really poor people in the favelas of Brazil. And these kids were climbing all over me, smiling and laughing and playing with me. And I didn't know what they were saying, but we could communicate just, you know, a little bit. And I was loving these kids. They were amazing. There's just unconditional love for us. Well, I was there still not speaking any Portuguese, and a family decided they wanted to get baptized. There's 5 of them. And I'm thinking, great, I get to go surf now. I get to go and finish with this mission thing.
And done.
Yeah. And I go to the chapel for this baptism, and I'm going to sit back and just kind of watch what happens. I'd never been to a baptism but other than my own when I was 8.
Yeah.
The only thing I remember from my baptism is they put white, kind of a white jumpsuit on me so I could get baptized and wearing white. And I was acting like I was in a karate suit. I mean, it was not a spiritual thing for me. I was 8 years old, So I didn't know anything about it. I went to this baptism, and there was an American there, a missionary, and he was what they call the zone leader. And he said, you're going to baptize these people. In fact, you're going to baptize everybody here. And it was all the zone were bringing their people together to be baptized. I don't know. There was 5 or 10 or 15. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, I don't speak Portuguese. And how do I do that? He says, well, you can read, right? I said, yeah, it's basically like reading Spanish. And when you grow up in Arizona, you can do that.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, you can baptize. I said, well, no, how can I baptize? I mean, he said, are you a priest? Now in our church, when you're 16, you can become a priest. And I became a priest only because I lied and didn't tell them the things I was doing.
I was going to say, somewhere in this gets problematic, doesn't it?
It does,
Yes.
yeah. And so he said, are you a priest? I said, well, technically, but I don't even know what I believe.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you've got the priesthood, you've got the authority, you can baptize. So go get on your white clothes and do it. I was scared to death. I was scared to death because these people really believed what they were doing was important. And they really believed that they had received revelation from God that the church they were then going to join was true. And I didn't even believe it. I didn't believe anything. I just knew that I had stopped doing drugs and life was better.
Yeah.
Well, I go into this room to put on my white clothes so I could go baptize these people and go home and surf. And I decided, you know what, I better see if prayer works. So I said my first real prayer, and I'm 17 years old, grew up in a Christian home. I'd said thousands of prayers, but never really with intent.
Right.
And I remember saying, hey, God, I think you're there. I believe you are. I'm not sure if this is your church. I'm not sure what I believe, but these people believe it. And I don't want to embarrass them.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm doing, and I need some help. And that's about how I finished the prayer. I walked into that water, and I don't know what happened, but Portuguese just came out. It just came out. It was like a blur. Everybody was baptized. I took care of it all. And I didn't speak perfect Portuguese after that, but I understood it. It was like a chip was stuck in my brain. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I know what people are saying.
Yeah.
Like that. And I think that's called the gift of tongues. So I still speak Portuguese today with a native fluency that's not normal amongst Americans.
Yes.
And I was called back to serve a mission there afterwards. So my experience with Brazil was serving with people of all colors, of all socioeconomic situations in northern Brazil, predominantly African descent. And I loved it. And then I came back to the United States, and it was really kind of missing that flavor that I really liked. I love other languages and cultures and music and people, and it was pretty homogenous where I lived.
Now, how do I say this diplomatically?
It's pretty homogenous.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. I moved to Southern California, and I went to a congregation there, and there was this beautiful, dark-haired, almond-eyed girl sitting in the audience, and I thought, man, that's awesome. I talked to her in Spanish, and she's like, I'm not Mexican. I said, well, where are you from? She said, Samoa. And I said, well, I've always been into Africa. Because
Mistake after mistake after mistake.
I was thinking Somalia, to be honest.
Everybody does.
I was thinking Somalia, because the accent was in the wrong place, right?
Yeah.
Samoa is not the way to say it, Samoa, and I thought Somalia, and I just got it wrong. Anyway, we ended up going on a date, which took months to go on, but once we went on the date, we were married less than 3 months later, and I've been mostly surrounded by brown people my whole life. I mean, for 32 years, I like to say I'm a minority in my home. I'm the only white guy here.
Yeah.
So, but it's really helped me just realize that people are people.
Yeah.
All of this journey I went through, people are people, and if we just give them an opportunity to be their best self, it's really rare to find a bad person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You kind of have to look for them.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway,
it's true.
Long story. Most people are just awesome. Yeah.
I'm like going through the list of people I want to be petty about, but I'm like, well, okay, fine. I'll give you that. Most people are awesome. Yeah.
Most people are awesome. There's a handful of people that we can say, I wish them well.
Yeah, there you go. Because that's not what I was going to say, but that's better than what I was going to say.
I wish them well. Just don't need them in my life anymore, but I wish them well.
Yes. Tell me this. There was the story about, I do remember it being a little complicated to be able to date your wife, but you did it, and then you married her. And then what about the purchasing of that home, that first home? Oh, no, was it the purchasing? You'd seen a house that you wanted to.
Yeah.
You were in a difficult situation is what I can remember.
I was in a difficult situation. You know, as a Samoan woman, you know, when you marry a Samoan, you don't marry her.
We don't come as one.
You marry them.
Us. Yes.
I didn't realize what that really meant. But for your audience who don't know, but one day, by the way, I'm going to do a bunch of comedy skits on video, because the culture is so weird, you know. And for those of us from the outside,
hard to keep up with.
It's, you know, sit down, cross your legs, don't put your legs out. I mean, it just all kinds of things. You got to be lower than the chief. You got to be lower than the dad. There's all these things, and there's a learning curve, right? And I actually went to Samoa to ask permission to marry her. I only knew one phrase, which was "eat your father's doo-doo" in Samoan. You know the phrase.
We'll just leave it out. Yes.
You know that phrase. Yes. My sister-in-law told me that was how to say hello, how are you?
Oh, how nice. I love her already.
Yes, she's very funny. And when I said that to somebody, they told me that normally they would just kill me, but they knew what was going on, and I laughed about it. Well, when I got off the plane in Samoa, I heard her father say that to me.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, well, I'm in trouble. And it took a while to get him to agree for us to be married, but he did eventually. And he said, if you marry her, you don't marry her, you marry us. And she's one of 19 kids. But I didn't realize that in Polynesian languages, there's no word for cousin. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I've never thought about that. Just brother and
sister. No, it doesn't exist. Yeah. It's your uso or your tofafine, right?
Tofafine.
Yeah, your sister and your brother.
Yeah.
So what do you call your dad's brother's kids? Uso.
Yeah. Just right? More brothers and sisters. Yeah.
It's all brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And think about that, because it's actually true. if we did descend from God, if he created us, we are literally all brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And in your culture, my wife's culture, my kids' culture, we're all brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I just had no clue how big this family was.
Yeah. I was like, and then there's that one part where it's like, oh, they're not kidding. They meant that.
Yeah, they meant that, with the laves and everything that go on with they mean it. And it's such a rich blessing when you really understand it. It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, Mona and I got married, broke. We were living in, we went from TVA to Provo, and we were living in a little 2-bedroom basement apartment. And I always wanted to own homes. I couldn't pay the bills. We had the lights turned off. We had our telephone cut off. And when your in-laws call collect, those of you who are young, you don't know what that means. You can actually call an operator and say, I'd like to place a collect phone call, which means the charge would be paid by the receiver. When her mom and dad would call collect, if our phone was cut off, that was uber embarrassing and a shame on my wife, because she married a Pa'alani, and we're supposed
and you're
to
supposed to have it together. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And we didn't have it together, man. We didn't have anything. And I remember feeling emasculated, feeling like I wasn't worthy of my wife, that I let her down. I failed. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sleeping when she would sleep because I just felt inadequate. So I watched TV, Johnny Carson, Arsenio Hall, Star Trek Next Generation.
And then you started at late night, and then you're going all the way through the night.
Yeah. So the infomercials would come on after the last real TV show.
Yes.
And Carlton Sheets came on. Yes. Carlton Sheets said you could buy real estate, no money down. And I'm thinking, because I started doing construction when I was just the summer I turned 13. So I started when I was 12, turned 13 shortly after. Started framing houses with my brothers. And I've been around construction my whole life. And I'm just thinking, God, bless me with a house, please. And help me take care of my family. It's a noble, honorable thing. And you said, ask and you shall receive. I need a house. Yeah. God, give me a house. Give me a house. Let me get this course. Well, I called to get the course, books and tapes or whatever, cassettes. And it was like $187. I didn't have it. Mm-hmm. Mona and I had 3 credit cards. We had a MasterCard, a Visa card, and a Discover card, all 3 $500 limits, all 3 overdrawn and late and horrible credit. And I had to figure out how to get this course when we just didn't have the money. And we were shopping at Desert Industries for things for the kids. That's how broke we were.
Right. The Goodwill outside of the States. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Goodwill, Salvation Army. That's where we're shopping.
Secondhand. Yeah.
Secondhand stuff. And that was our financial state of affairs. We're on WIC, government assistance. And I've never looked at the bookshelves in Deseret Industries, but because I was thinking about it, because it was in my universe, I had a feeling, look over there, and I looked, and there's a Carlton Sheets course on the shelf for $5. And I got it, and it changed my life. Yeah. Yeah. I was missing 2 cassettes, but I figured if God gave me the course, I didn't need those 2. So
nothing relevant on those 2 tapes.
The strategy that I glommed onto, that my brain could understand, is all new terminology. That's the hardest thing about anything new, is the terms. Right. The terminology was a 0 money down lease option. Okay. And I just started looking for one, figuring out how can I get a house for free? I need to find somebody who'd sell me one for free. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard pitch, right?
Yeah.
Knock on their door and say, will you sell me your house for free? Will you sell me your house for free? No. But I was trained as a missionary and knows you get them every day. No big deal.
Yeah.
So I just had to knock on more doors. Eventually somebody'd say yes, right? And a guy said yes eventually. Mm-hmm. And he already knew what it was. In fact, his name's Mel Stewart, and he changed my life because I went and asked him if I could buy his house, no money down.
Yeah.
I'd pay him $500 a month. My rent was $550. I'd pay him $500 a month, and I'd use the extra $50 a month to fix the house. And I had the skill set to fix it. And he said, you're talking about a 0 down lease option, aren't you? And my eyes got big because I thought the only person who knew that was Carlton Sheets, right?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He went to a file cabinet at his little old house in Provo, and he pulled out the contract. He already had one. He's like, sign right here. Yeah, you can buy it today.
Yeah.
I bought a house that day. My wife had never seen it. So I drove back, told her, hey, we just bought a house. Come over and let's go look at it. It was horrible.
She's like,
Stuff
oh, did
it was
we? Is this what you bought? Oh.
horrible. But it was $50 cheaper than rent. It had 3 bedrooms instead of 2. So her mom and dad could move in with us. And they did. And mom and dad lived with us, and we fixed that up while we lived in it.
Yeah.
Her sister moved in with her son. We had 11 people at one time living in it.
Because you married an entire, yeah. Okay.
And she's number 16 of 19.
Had everybody else come over to the States?
Not everybody, but all that had only rented.
Got it.
Nobody had ever owned.
It's pretty significant, even if they were all here.
Well, yeah, but if it's a little different in Samoa because you get land for free. The ali'i will give you land and you can build on that, and everybody helps you build. So it's a little bit different. But the thing is that was interesting was that in many cultures, the parents don't have the savvy to teach the children how to become homeowners.
Right.
How do you learn it? How do you? It's not taught in school.
Yeah.
You can watch TV commercials, call Rocket Mortgage, but they're using terms you don't understand.
Right.
Down payments, closing costs, inspections, all kinds of stuff that spins kids out, and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and parents don't know how to help them. But the Lord blessed us with that house. We sold it. We made $7,940, and we lived in it for a couple of years. So we got on the other side of the capital gains. I didn't owe any tax on it.
Yeah.
And we turned that money into more money, into more money, into more money, and it just really changed our lives. So I love real estate. It's what I love to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, revisit for a second. Just give us another example of this idea of conscious capitalism. Completely opposite.
No problem. Conscious capitalism. There's a book called Conscious Capitalism, but conscious capitalism or social entrepreneurship, as I like to call it, is really kind of in vogue right now. Right. A plug. I did a podcast. It'll be dropping soon with Ryan Moore of Allmade and RioNet. He's one of the largest silkscreen pinning supply companies in the world. And as a 21-year-old kid, he was a student of mine and got into business for himself, and he's now done very, very well. He's built an apparel company so that silkscreen printers can print on socially responsible t-shirts. And he's not alone. Tom's, the shoes. The shoes.
Yeah.
Social entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Many companies now understand that there's really an incentive to think all the way through your processes and say, how can I redo this so that it's better for the environment, so that it's better for humanity? Because ultimately, if it's better for the environment, better for humanity, it's better for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it falls into the biblical premises is where much is given, much is expected. And as you give, you get. So if I can put out a product that's socially good, if I can put out a product that's environmentally good, if I can put out a product like Malawi's Pizza in Provo, if I can buy a pizza that feeds 2 meals in Africa, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I do that? There's no downside.
Yeah.
And it pays you back faster than you can. I mean, the Lord tells us He'll open up windows from heaven. We cannot store it all.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean money. But we don't, being successful, being wealthy isn't a dollar figure. It's a satisfaction in life.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily mean you're a multimillionaire or a billionaire. It means that you sleep at night, you have more than you need, and you can help people.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you're good to go.
4 hours away, come back. Yeah.
Yeah, with a young dude he's gonna catch his first waves. I'm stoked. I'm stoked out of my mind. This kid's gonna get jazzed on it, man.
Yeah.
And you gotta spread the stoke. That's what you do.
Right.
While I can, there's gonna be an age where I won't be able to stand up anymore. And so I'll just talk about back in the day.
Back in the day. Yep. I remember when.
Yeah. So social entrepreneurship and conscious capitalism is looking at everything we do and reframing it in a way that says, okay, I want to succeed.
Mhm.
How do I help other people so that I can get there? Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
Right. Right.
I look at it differently. Maslow's hierarchy of human needs.
Mm-hmm.
Right, top three, right? Love. I'm trying to remember.
I always think about
love,
the very bottom.
Love, esteem, and self-actualization.
Yes.
So the first one is we need to take care of our food, clothing, shelter. The second one is we need to take care of our immediate future and those that we love. Then we get into love. We need to feel loved in order to feel like a human being, right?
Yeah.
So to feel right, we have to feel loved.
Yeah.
And then we need to feel esteem. We need to have a little bit of notoriety. Mm-hmm. We don't feel good about ourselves unless at a certain point we want to be recognized. That's part of human nature, right?
That's true.
Look, we are pack animals. If you want to break it down, get rid of Christendom. Yeah. We're pack animals. People want to be recognized in the village.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They want to know that's Pastor Tom. I'll sing it and you'll remember it. These are the people in the neighborhood. Yes. In the neighborhood. In the neighborhood. Right? The grocer is the person in the neighborhood. You started too low
for me to join you.
But yes. To join in. I was expecting harmony, actually. Really disappointed.
I was trying, but then I was like, so.
So we want to be recognized in the neighborhood as the grocer, as the pharmacist, as the doctor. Mm-hmm. So there's that esteem, right? And after we gain some esteem, some notoriety, we've done a good job, and people can say, hey, I'm recognizing you, Pela, for being a peak performer at your job. Mm-hmm. It feels good, right? Then we need to self-actualize. That's the last thing. Self-actualization can't be done without philanthropy. To self-actualize, I need to live on in infamy. Well, how do I do that? The only way I can do that is to
creating a real legacy. Yeah, through giving.
I got to give, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to die. Everything I have is going to end. Mm-hmm. But if I can give something to somebody, if I can donate to the arts and they put my name on the building, mm-hmm. I'm getting esteem and I'm self-actualizing, right? So what I've figured out with social entrepreneurship is it's the top three levels: love, esteem, and self-actualization in a forever cycle, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm cycling that money in such a way that gives me more love, more esteem, more self-actualization, which costs me money, back into more love, more esteem, more self-actualization. We just cycle. Yeah. And it's really been fun. It's been fun.
Well, tell me about some ways that just give me a story about how you've done that.
Okay. Marie Carmel from Haiti. Mm-hmm. Never met her, never seen her, but she has the cutest little Haitian French accent I've ever heard. Mona and I buy a deed to a property that somebody didn't pay their taxes on. Now this has no house on it, it's just a lot. Mm-hmm. We bought it for $1,200. It's worth 15 grand.
Yeah.
So option A, sell it for 15,000 and make $13,000, right?
Right.
Woohoo. Can I make $13,000 any other way? Yeah. Have you ever made 13,000?
Well, let's just talk about you.
No, everybody listening to this,
yes.
You add up all the money you've made is a lot more than 13 grand, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I got kids on here 18 years old who've made $13,000 in their life.
Yeah.
So 13 grand is not, I'll get it again.
Right.
I will get that again. So I'm not worried about the 13 grand. I'm worried about who's going to buy this and how can I help them? Well, I put a for sale sign up there and I finance properties. Yeah. This is a great idea for your listeners. Finance properties because banks won't lend on dirt. Banks will not do it. They want to lend on construction. They want a house they can repossess.
Yes.
They don't want dirt because dirt's not sexy. Well, if you can build a house on this dirt, it's sexy to me. Mm-hmm. Somebody will want to build on it someday. So I bought this and I put a sign up that said, another quality property available to build on immediately, 100% financing guaranteed for all, 100% approval, call.
Yeah.
Put that sign up, put it on Zillow, free. and I'm getting phone calls to the tune of about 30, 40 phone calls a week. Hey, I see your sign here. How much are you asking for it? Well, it's 15,000. If you pay cash, I can finance you. Tell me about your financing. And I usually do 10, 10, and 10, just a real easy financing, 10% down, 10 years, and 10% interest.
Okay.
So now I'm making 10% on my note, right? Well, this Haitian voice comes on with the cute hello, you know, the
Yes.
accent. I knew, because I love language. Hello, she says, hello, my name is Marie Carmen. I'm calling you from Florida. I'm looking at your lot. And I was already in love with her. I don't know what she looks like, but I'm like, this is just the cutest person, right? So I said, well, how can I help you? She says, well, you will finance. My husband and I, we would like to move here. We would like to build here, but maybe 5 years, but not now. How much do you want for your lot? I said, well, it's 15,000. And well, I do not have 15,000. And it says finance. How much can you finance? So I said, I need 10% down, which would be $1,500, right?
Right.
So what did I pay for the lot?
Oh, I don't remember. Was it like $6?
$1,200.
12. Oh, 12. Yeah.
So my money would be right back in my pocket, right?
Right.
That's a good deal for me. That's awesome.
Right.
There's
Nothing tied up.
Not a lot of investments you can make where when people give you a down payment, you're whole.
You're clear.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the reasons I love Sexy Dirt. So anyway, I said $1,500 down, and your payments would be this much per month for 10 years. Oh, this is a little bit too much for me. We cannot afford this. We need the payment to be about $100. $100 I can pay you every month, never be late. And she was just so cute. I said, well, let me figure this out. And I did the numbers, and I said, you know what? For that payment, I'd have to sell you the house for $12,000, which means I'm selling it $3,000 less than I was going to sell it for. So let me ask you a question, Marie Carmel. If I agree to do this, would you promise me that you'll never be late? Oh, I promise I will never be late if you can do it for only $100. Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So she sends $1,500. I'll tell you, she's never been a day late on a payment. It's the best check I ever get. I get it every month for $104.34.
Oh, nice.
Every single month. It's awesome. I've never met her. One day she might just send the balance and say, hey,
let's just be done now. Yeah.
Because they live in Texas, want to retire in Florida. So she just wanted to buy it before the value of the property went higher.
Went up. Yeah.
And I gave her an opportunity to get a line of credit without reporting to credit, so it doesn't affect her credit.
Right.
It's a win-win, right? And I made 1,000% on my money, plus the 10% each year she's paying me. That's a good deed. That's what I call a good deed. So
that's actually I get one of the stories. I think you shared that a couple of years ago when I first met you.
She's been paying me for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
this lady's automatic. Yeah.
And I
had this. Don't pay me quite so nicely, Isabella. Honestly, she's the best payer I've ever had.
Yes. Oh, that is one lot. I think about that lot all the time because it was.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm going to plug myself right now, if you
Please
don't mind.
do. Yes.
Anybody who's interested in that kind of a deal can go to rgdinvestors.com. I have a little membership. It's $299 a month. Instead of having to pay for a mentor, having to pay like, 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 40,000, like some of these mentorships, they can actually get me to do the training for $300 a month, turn it off anytime you want. But what I'm doing, because I just launched my book, Real Good Deeds. It's on Amazon. And I just launched this funnel. I'm actually doing it for only $99, and I'm giving people a $1 1-week trial. So they get one live lesson from me in the first week. If they don't like me, turn it off. You only spend $1.
Yeah.
So anyway, something they can try.
What do you cover?
I cover how to do real good deeds, how to get properties at below value, how to make sure they're below value. And it's not just tax liens and tax deeds. It's, look, you can get property below value from a person. You can just, a Mel Stewart can sell you a property. Mr. Mel Stewart changed my life.
Yeah.
So I teach you how to find distressed sellers. That might be a person, that might be a bank, and that might be a municipality. We just want to buy from distressed people because distressed people sell assets for less than they're worth.
Right. Right.
Now, if we buy from somebody who's distressed, are we helping them?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good deed.
Yeah.
So it's a position of helping, and we get the assets and we benefit from it, right? Win-win. County wants to sell it. Distressed homeowner wants to sell it. The inheritors of this crappy house in Tennessee want to sell it because they don't want to live there. Let's help them out.
Big ups to
Give it to 'em.
Tennessee. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I just put an offer in today. This is a real good deed. An inherited home. It is with an estate. It's in rural Louisiana, and it's a $165,000 home if it's all fixed up, but it's horrible.
It's dilapidated.
And they've tried to sell it now for almost 3 months. And, you know, we put an all cash offer together for them that I think is going to be attractive. And if it is, great, I win because I get to buy the asset for 35 grand.
Right.
And they win because they can split that up amongst the kids and at least have something before the house falls down from, you know, all the infestations that it has in rural Louisiana. You can imagine the critters and the bugs that are eating at it. So
yeah, and the humidity.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I buy ugly houses.
Well, talk to me about forming an exit strategy.
So the first thing I teach in the really all I teach with Real Good Deeds, again, rgdinvestors.com.
Very nice.
What I teach, nice plug, huh? So cheesy. Cut that out.
Love it. No, I'm leaving it.
So the first thing I teach is how you back the math out. So start with the math. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to do this with the property to help somebody, how much would I make? In order to make that, how much can I pay?
Okay.
Now I know if I can afford to do this or not.
Right.
So just work the math backwards. We reverse engineer the math first. If the math works, then we put together an offer and we go buy it. And too many people are working from deal forward.
Yes.
Here's the deal. Here's what it's for. Now what can I do with it? And I teach people to go exactly backwards. What can you do with it? What can you pay for it?
Yeah, yeah.
You see the difference? I
do. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. When you explained that to me years ago, I intellectually, yes, it made sense. But then it was a hard concept to hold on to, right?
That's why I need you to just be a member for every month. That's what I'm at.
Right. So I can remind you.
rgdinvestors.com. That's why we do that, right? Yeah. For $99, it's a deal. But wait, I'm going to send you some knives.
There's more.
There's more.
Exactly. You know what? I can tell you this. I appreciate that concept of working backwards because then you know, do I even have enough to make this work? Because if you work forward, it always seems like you're going to have enough to make this work. But then when you get down to it, you're like, wait, I did not anticipate this cost for fixing this property or rebuilding or whatever. And now I'm stuck with a house that's not in great shape and no money to fix it. And I still got to pay on it and I can't get rid of it.
Exactly. And unfortunately, that's kind of what the flipping classes were all about. They've all kind of shut down now, but these flipping classes that were going on, they were basically, watch HGTV, okay? It's completely backwards. Pay retail for the house. They buy them off the MLS, that's retail. Yeah. They buy them at auctions, and in a good economy, that's retail. They're paying 90 cents on the dollar, 95. Sometimes they're paying over retail for properties in Southern California, flip or flop, right? And then they fix it up for 150. So they bought it for
they're already in a
650.
deficit. Yeah.
They're in at 800 grand and they sell it for 900 grand and they say, well, I'll have to find another house to flip. Stop for a second. If you're in at 800 grand, first of all, not very many people have 800 grand.
Right.
So then you got to solve the problem of how do I get that?
Right.
And I do a hard money loan and that's charging me 12% a month and that has to be paid every month and the contractor's taking too long and you can't sleep at night. Then the 100,000 that's left is not 100 grand because you've got 6% for commissions.
Right.
You've got closing costs because somebody's buying a $900,000 house. They're going to ask you to
pay those closing. Yeah.
Or pay them all out, right? So it's going to cost you 10% to sell the house. It's going to cost you 90 grand to sell that house.
So now you have your ice cream money back. So yeah.
You spent 800 grand to make 10.
It doesn't make sense.
That's not a good deed.
No.
I would rather buy a $6,000 house, put a homeless family in it, sell it for 20 without fixing it. Let them become homeowners, teach them how to flip it.
Right.
Help them flip it.
Yeah.
And then when they sell it for 50, 60, 70, 80 grand, Say, hey, do you want to take your profit and buy one of my other houses?
There you go.
I've got houses that are already fixed up.
Yeah.
How about let me help you again?
Yeah.
Right? It's a better way. And like I say, on that walk the other day, watching that woman that was on the Oprah show, you remember her.
I do.
We have to help Americans become homeowners.
Yes.
We got to quit raising kids to think myopically about their future.
Yeah.
That's home ownership. That's business ownership. And not everybody needs to own a business. But if you're gonna have a job, be good at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See yourself being the very best at anything you're gonna do. And we've got an economic segment of our society, which unfortunately all too often falls along some racial divides as well.
Yeah.
But that I choose to focus on the economy because that's what I have the ability to change. I can't change somebody's color. But that economic divide, the only difference between somebody who's there and in a different place is knowledge.
Yeah.
And if we'll just be more free with what we know, and be more quick to do good, I think we can change the world pretty quick. So that's my goal anyway.
Yeah. You've got a lot of good information. Go ahead.
Yeah, one more thing. The money on doing a deal, right? That's the barrier.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people want to.
I was just going to ask you, what do you do when it comes to fundraising? Figuring out where the money comes from.
The epiphany I've had is that I can't solve that problem. Mm-hmm. We can. So in my network, rjdinvestors.com.
There you go.
In my network, what I teach each week is this is a place to be cool. This is a place of good. Mm-hmm. Bring your deals here. Because there are people in this network who have more money than time, and there are people who have more time than money. That's a partnership. Mm-hmm. I might want to partner with you. Bring me a deal. Bring me a deal. Look, I just sent a $5,000 check today to somebody who brought me a deal. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't I pay people who bring me deals?
Right.
That's work I don't have to do.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do deals with everybody in my network, but there are other people who can. Yeah. What I want to build, honestly, and I hope that somebody on this podcast listening feels what I'm trying to put together. I want to create a network of people. About 1,000 is my goal. And we got a long way to go to get to that number. But I want to start with 1,000 truly good people who want to help each other. Yeah. And who are unafraid to bring deals to a social environment. You see, if I were to tell most people, hey, tell me about your deal, most people say, you can't see my deal. And they keep the cards close to
their chest, play it close.
Because they're afraid I would want to steal it. Mm-hmm. Well, if you understand, one, the law of God, or two, the law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, I know where I go if I steal, right? Mm-hmm. But I also know, that's the law of God, but I also know the law of attraction. If I steal from somebody a deal rather than partner with them, I am not living abundantly because I believe the world is only good enough to bring me one deal. And I better take this one.
Right.
I operate from a different mindset, and I want 1,000 people who operate from my mindset to join me in this network, which is this. There are always good deals.
Yeah.
There are more good deals than anybody could buy.
Yeah.
And if I steal one from you, you are going to be dead. I'm going to be dead to you. You'll never do a deal with me again.
Right.
And you're going to spread my negative, toxic stuff about me to people in a network, and I'm done. My business is over.
Leave you dead in the water. Yeah.
So the most selfish thing I can do is partner with you.
That's true.
Right?
Right. It's to create a big network. Yeah.
It's create a big network. Let's play together. Let's have some fun. Let's be nice to each other. And I want to create this environment that says, hey, I'm unafraid. Yeah. Jason, here's a deal. Will you review it in front of everybody? and then PM me if you want to talk about investing with me.
Yeah.
And I think I'm onto something. I got it again.
Yeah.
That's my meter. When those things stand up, I'm
Goosebumps.
onto
I got
something.
it. Yeah.
Because if more people, if we could partner on more deals would be done. And if those deals are going to help people, more good would be done.
Right.
And we'd all get to stop saying, how do I fund it?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Join me. Bring me a deal, please.
Yes. Now, just to be clear, when people join up with your training, you teach them how to find the deals, how to work those numbers so that it makes sense. I don't mean to just go all the way through with it,
Yes.
but I mean when you're investigating.
I teach them how to run the numbers. I don't spend a ton of time on acquisition, how to find deals, because honestly, that's everywhere. I'll give this. The first thing you do is you contact 18 realtors in 18 places in the country that you're interested in. And you simply say, would you send me an automatic email every time something comes on the MLS in your part of town that is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths? If that's what you want to buy, if you like 3 2s.
Yeah.
Would you just send me an email every time a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, up to a 4 bedroom, 2 bath comes up?
Right.
That's my criteria. I don't do 2 1s. I do 3 1s to 5 3s. That's all I do. Nothing bigger than 5 bedroom, nothing bigger than 3 bath. So I've got, for free, anyone can do this because every realtor can do it. For free, every day I have anywhere from 10 to 15 emails a day from realtors coming in saying, hey, here's another house on the MLS. I look through those, and to tell you the truth, most days there's nothing that fits my criteria, nothing that I can reverse the numbers, back the numbers out that makes sense to buy. But at least 3 or 4 times a month, I find a deal I can put an offer in on, just off of realtors. Well, what do you think would happen if you were putting offers on 3 or 4 properties a month? Let's say you get 1 a month.
Yeah.
How many Americans do? Yeah. How many Americans do 12 deals a year?
Not many.
And that's not calling any counties. That's not looking at foreclosures.
Yeah.
That's just low hanging fruit.
Right.
There are people in need everywhere in the country. And when they're in need, they're going to sell their home. They're going to use an agent to do it most times.
Yeah.
So that's just one method. I teach a bunch of methods like that.
Okay.
But it's not really so important to me how you buy.
Yeah.
It's how much you buy for.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Make the numbers make sense. Yeah.
If the numbers make sense, get it at a tax lien sale, deed sale, get it at a foreclosure, get it at a pre-foreclosure or short sale. I don't care. As long as the numbers make sense, let's rock and roll, go do some good deeds.
Yeah, absolutely. At where? Where do we find you again?
You know, it's this website called rgdinvestors.com. Or you can just search for the book on Amazon, and there's a free Kindle, so anybody can go there and get the free Kindle download if you have the Kindle, whatever.
Right.
Otherwise, I think it's $9 if you don't have the Kindle deal, but the paperback's 19 or something like that. I think
you are correct on all of that. Yes.
Oh, am I?
Yes.
I try to be. I'm pretty good with numbers.
Yeah. What you said. Yes. Good deal.
So, well, thank you.
Hey, you know what? It's been a real pleasure.
I hope you got
I
some
would
good
say
stuff on
talking
here.
to you, but I was listening more than anything. Yeah.
I talk way too much. You know that. That's what I do for a living.
I don't feel like you talk too much. I feel like you share a lot of good information. And that's what we need. And, I think if people, so there's something that you said early on that really resonates with me. And it's really that regardless of what has happened in the past, right? And of everyone's life, if you want to own your life, you just have to own your life and work with what you got and move forward. And if you see opportunities, like this is a great opportunity for somebody to really make a difference in the way that they bring money into their own homes. Yeah. You've got to just take
I agree
it.
with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, and thank you.
There is no reason not to be investing when you can buy properties for $1,200.
This is true.
Because we can all look. If you've ever been to Vegas, you left here $1,200 poorer, right? So
there's that.
So next time, save up some cash for Vegas, and instead of going to Vegas, just go to rgdinvestors.com. And I'll show you what to do.
Very nicely done. Exactly. If you want to be happy, you can be happy, right? You just gotta want it.
Just a choice. Just
Yes.
a choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much. Where else can
God
we
bless
find
you.
you?
You know what? Facebook, Real Good Deeds,
Yes.
or just Jason Porter, and you can find me there. Real Good Deeds on Instagram, Real Good Deeds on Twitter, those types of things. LinkedIn,
Mhm.
Jason Porter on LinkedIn. Those are kind of my social things. I'm not speaking much right now because hotels aren't letting
Open.
people come to hotels. To tell you the truth, I'm having more fun with what I'm doing anyway.
Yeah.
So I'd rather speak on my Tuesday trainings, and train people that are cool.
And that's part of your group that anyone
That's
can
my group.
join.
Every Tuesday, every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, I train live personally, and then they have access to contracts. I've spent a lot of money on different contracts for real estate.
Right.
And what I realized is that's a barrier, right? What I'm trying to do is break the barriers. So
Right.
rather than you having to go hire an attorney for $1,200 to write a contract for you, what I do is I just put the contract in there, strip out my name and everything. Then you have a template that you can take to an attorney or a title company and say, hey, I've got the bones of what I'm looking for. Can you just adjust it for your state? That's a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So I'm doing things like that inside the network as well.
Mhm.
I want to get rid of the barriers that are impeding people from putting their little $1,200 to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got to start somewhere.
It does.
For me, it started zero. I got a house with zero money. Those are hard to get nowadays.
Yeah.
So,
but you know what? I like that you've got your investor group that you're building, and you have all of your education, especially the Tuesday live classes. This is good. There's a lot of resources available. At where?
It's at rgdinvestors.com.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Did you unplug?
Yeah.
There you are.
Swinging my arms too much.
By the way, before we end, how's your mom?
Oh, she's good. And of course she loves you. And she's like, oh, Jason, and he married Purcell.
Yeah. Yes, I did marry a Purcell.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. They're a big family.
It's a big family.
I will tell you,
Uh-huh.
white dude perspective, okay? If you are white and listen to this, hanging out with Samoans, let me just tell you the biggest investment you can make, all right? Dance lessons for the electric slide. You got to know it. If you're going to hang out with Samoans, you got to know it. You cannot go to a Samoan wedding without the electric slide. Am I right?
You are correct. And you've got to learn that point where you do this with one hand and that, you got to learn that one too. You just point at your friend. Yeah. Across the room.
We had a family reunion in St. George, Utah for the Purcells. And I got to believe there were 1,500 people doing the electric slide on the dance floor at one time, which should have been a world record if we had thought about calling the Guinness people to come record it, but we didn't. We just had a party with 1,500 people doing the electric slide, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah. The wobble should come back too. I think that should be the next thing. Yeah, but you got the old school people. They got to stick with the electric. Yeah.
The other thing that I love is asking an old woman to dance with them.
Oh yes.
So nice. That's how I got my mother-in-law. She realized this kid had some rhythm, so she liked me first. Once she liked me, the father took 2 weeks, and then he was like, "I have to do it because she said I have
to." Right. I was like, "You held out for 2 weeks? How?"
Mom liked me on New Year's Eve. As soon as I asked her to dance, she was like, "Okay, he's all right."
Right, and the bow is so perfect, so perfect.
It is yes, and I always love this too. When you give a gift, goes right to the head. Thank you. I love that. I love that. I cherish my Samoan culture. And when people say, well, you're not Samoan, I say, beg to differ.
Yeah.
My better half is Samoan, which means I'm 51% Samoan.
There you go.
This is my better half.
Yes, exactly. The market share says that officially, yes, and there's how we go.
51%. There you go.
It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Awesome.
Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, same to you. All right. Thanks.
Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.